Eventually getting to the center, it was another box. This time a smaller box, about the width of his size 13 sneakers. Unlike the brown box, this box looked better. It looked fancy. Not only in its appearance, but in its texture too. It felt strange, very smooth, yet with a subtle bit of coarseness to it. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It wasn't made of cardboard, it had a marbly texture to it. And yet, it looked like a small cardboard box. After a little hesitation, TJ opened the peculiar-looking box. Inside were a watch, a credit card, and a passport. Curiouser and curiouser, he thought to himself. I am so surprised that for this moment I quite forgot how to speak good English. He snickered to himself in amusement, as he wondered why that line came to his mind as it did. The credit card had his name embossed on it, and likewise with the passport. It had a current photo of him, with all his details. What is going on here, he said aloud. None of it was making sense to him. As he removed everything from the box, to ensure he wasn't missing anything, he noticed there was a note inside. It read, "Destiny awaits if you choose to accept. Hyatt Regency Kathmandu, Nepal. May 30th, 6 p.m.
This is crazy,
TJ exclaimed. The absurdity of the situation overshadowed the cheesiness of the quote. Just as he was about to sit down to take it all in, he remembered he had a life-changing decision to make in a few hours. So, he hurriedly took everything from the package and put it in his backpack. And of course he put the credit card in his wallet. He ran outside to his car, but as he was about to close the front door, he realized he almost forgot to say goodbye to his uncle.
See you later, sir,
he yelled. Before he could even hear his uncle's response, he slammed the door and ran to the car. Taking a deep breath, he attempted to process everything. He opened his backpack and dumped the contents onto the passenger seat of his car. There it all lay, his future, to be determined in the next few moments. He couldn't do both, could he? A large part of him hoped he could, but he knew he had to choose one. On one hand, he had the opportunity of a lifetime, a full-ride scholarship to the college of his choosing, something he had worked towards his entire life. On the other hand, a mysterious package that came out of nowhere, filled with more question marks than answers, a location he knew next to nothing about, yet intriguing enough to make him consider following up on it. For all he knew, it could all be a prank. But his friends weren't capable of pranks of this magnitude, were they? He quickly grabbed the passport and credit card and started analyzing them. The problem was that he had never owned either of those two items, so he had no point of reference. How do you know a passport is real? He started typing into his phone. He spent the next 30 minutes in his driveway trying to investigate the authenticity of the passport and the credit card. It was all legit. Well, this entire situation was very suspicious, but everything of importance was up to standard, internet standards at least. He made up his mind, I'm going for it. He put everything back in the backpack, started his car, and drove out of the driveway. He decided to leave his car by his friend's place until he returned. Not knowing how long this trip would take, he thought it would be easier and cheaper not to leave it at the airport. He remembered his uncle's month-long rants about how ridiculously expensive it was leaving the car at Lax a few years ago when they had gone on a family vacation. Before he left his friend's place, he asked him to cover for him in the off chance his uncle would call asking for him. TJ's plan was to tell his uncle that he would be going on a pre-summer training camp with the team, a camp that would be used by the team to confirm the players they actually wanted on the team. When they have a large pool of great players, they use this camp to choose the cream of the crop.
Okay, that sounds good,
he said. Knowing his uncle's perceptive and meticulous nature, he knew his story needed to be airtight. Once he had his story straight and his friend was on board, he opened his ride-sharing app and booked a ride to LAX. Surely enough, within a few minutes the driver pulled up the driveway and TJ was on his way to the airport. Unfortunately, Friday afternoon in LA, headed to the airport, was always going to be a nightmare on the freeway.
We're going to have to take the 105 to the 405. There's no way of avoiding this traffic,
the driver said.
No problem,
TJ replied.
I'm in no hurry.
He knew this would give him more than enough time to process everything that was happening.
Okay, first things first, text Uncle Seymour.
This took a while as TJ had to choose his wording carefully, running through his story over and over in his head, making sure there were no plot holes. When he was done texting his uncle, he put his phone back in his pocket. With his head against the thick, warm car window, TJ stared out at the partially stationary cars on either side of them. As he gazed into the distance, looking at the vast construction on the one side and the exceptionally tall skyscrapers on the other, TJ actually started thinking about the trip.
Nepal.
He had no idea where that was. Feeling a slight sense of shame for not knowing, he took out his phone and started looking it up. His search engine showed a host of images of the place. Looks pretty exotic, he mused. Beautiful landscape. And it looks like this place has a lot of mountains. The architecture is nothing like we have here in the US.
Where is this place, though?
He said out loud. As he scrolled further down the page, he realized Nepal was a country in southern Asia neighboring India.
I need to get more info about this place. Good old Wikipedia time.
He said with a chuckle. He skimmed through the basics until he spotted something familiar.
Mount Everest, that's why this place is significant.